This is George Dionne with Metal Express Radio, and I'm here with Steve Brown of Tokyo Motor Fist. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing great, George. How you doing, brother? Great to be on Metal Express Radio. Thanks for having me.
No problem. If I knew nothing about Tokyo Motor Fist, how would you describe the band's music to me?
I would say it's everything you love about 80s hard rock and more. That's the simplest way to put it. And if you want me to go into a greater detail, if you like Trixter, Danger, Def Leppard, Van Halen, Bon Jovi, Kiss, Motley Crue, and Cheap Trick, you mix that all together, a little bit of Rainbow, a little bit of Alice Cooper, maybe even a little bit of Billy Joel. That's the essence of Tokyo Motor Fist. If you're going to make a Tokyo Motor Fist stew, I would add all those ingredients.
You released your first album in 2017. It was a self-titled album. How did the band get together?
Well, we got together through Frontiers Records. My good friend Serafino, who's the president of Frontiers. You know, Frontiers is known for putting together these so-called super groups and pairing different singers and guitar players and forming these bands, if you will, with famous musicians. And it's a really cool thing. And I've always been open to the idea. And they came to me with this idea to do a record with Ted. And, you know, Ted Coley, my dear friend, a longtime friend, fellow Jersey resident, you know, grew up a couple towns away from me. And, our friendship dates back to the Danger Game, before the Danger days. So it was really easy. And again, with Frontiers, we knew that we didn't have to reinvent the wheel, musically speaking. We knew Frontiers gives us a very strong list of things they want on the record, and most importantly, to sound like what you're famous for. So that was very easy to make a modernized, as I like to say, we do modernized 80s hard rock. It's influenced all the great things you love about all those bands that I said, all the sounds, but updated with a modern type production, you know, so it competes. And when you listen to it, it doesn't really sound so much like 1988, but it sounds like, 2020.
So does Frontiers come to you and say, hey, kind of pick your guys that you want to do this album with? Or do they say, hey, this guy's available, this guy's available, this guy's available?
Well, it came to me, Serafino was like, we want you to do a record with Ted. Who would you get? I'm the quarterback of this band, as I am with most of my projects, whether it's with Trixter or Tokyo Motor Fist, and any other band that I've had post-Trixter, Throwing Rocks, Soaked, 40-Foot Ringo, Stereo Fallout. I'm the producer, songwriter, manager, art director, engineer, guitar player, singer. I wear all the hats in these things. So, they trust my judgment. And, of course, it was very easy for me to pick Greg Smith on bass and Chuck Berge on drums, because we'd all been doing things together with different bands for years. And, again, it's the history that we have together. We're all from the East Coast, tri-state area, New York, New Jersey area. So we all have the same kind of mindset, the same crazy sense of humor. We laugh at each other's bad jokes, which is really important. And at the end of it all, we really enjoy each other's company, and we play together, fabulously, and I think it shows in our music, and most importantly, it shows in our live performance. When you see us, you see that there's a genuine brotherhood that we have with each other.
July 10th, you released your second album, Lions, through Frontiers Records. Do you guys write you said you're the quarterback, so do you guys write collectively? Or do you come up with the stuff and then everybody gives their little ideas afterwards?
That's pretty much, you nailed it on the head, George. I pretty much write everything. Though on this record, different than the last record was, all me. And this record, we had a surprise where Chuck Berge actually came to me with a song that he wrote probably 38 years ago. And then the last song on the record, Winner Takes All. Chuck gave me a very old demo version of this that he recorded back in the 80s, and it sounded like something that should have been on the Top Gun soundtrack, which very, very cool. But the essence was there, and I heard it, and I said, you know what? This is really cool and a different color that we don't have on the record, and I think I could turn this into something great. So Chuck brought in the song, I reworked it, added the drop tuning, Van Halen Fair Warning style guitars to it, added the keyboards, which is very much 5150 OU812 Van Halen, to give it, you know, again, bringing it back to that 80s sound, but modernized. And then when we started doing it, Ted had some concrete vocal ideas that were really good for the chorus. So it's actually the first true Tokyo Motor Fist collaboration. And, you know, I want everybody to know that though I am the creative genius, if you will, behind Tokyo Motor Fist, everybody's encouraged to come up with ideas. And if Greg brought me a great song like Chuck did, I would certainly make it into something, because those are things that have happened to me in the past. You know, I wrote basically all the songs with the Trixter stuff, but PJ, Peter, even Gus would give me certain ideas, and I would always try to encourage everybody to bring in creative ideas. But I think it's, you know, it's widely known that that's my field of expertise, and everybody kind of stays in their own lane, if you know what I mean.
Let's talk about some of the songs that you've released so far as singles. Tell me the story behind Youngblood.
Youngblood was the catalyst and the first song that I wrote for the new Tokyo Motor Fist record. So very apropos that it's the debut single that we released, and the first song on the record. Very important song because it has a great message. I wrote the song for my daughters, for my nephews, for the youth of America, for the youth of the world, that, you know, they are the young bloods, and they are the future, and they have the power to make things better or worse. And I think, you know, I'm a very positive guy. So, you know, the way my oldest daughter, Lily, she's a scholarship D1 athlete. She goes to Manhattan College. She's got the world by the balls, if you know what I mean. And she is the epitome of what a young blood is. You know, young blood, there ain't nothing in the world that you can't do, you know, and break down all the walls, make things happen. If you want to change things in the world, you make it happen. Don't sit around. Don't be an armchair quarterback, you know, on social media. You're going to do something. Get out there and do it. And that's exactly the way I want my daughters to live their lives, and the youth of the world, you know, and to be a leader. And that's a very important song. And melodically and musically, it sets off a great statement. You know, all I can say is that was the first song that I wrote, and I sent the rough version of it with me singing and playing everything, because that's kind of the way I make records. I kind of make, if you will, a Steve Brown solo record. I don't do demos. I make finished recordings of the songs because I want everybody to hear it the way I envision it. And I sent it out to the guys, and Ted basically jumped through his phone with text and calling me saying, "Dude, this is the best song I've ever heard. It's so cool. It's like Van Halen. It's like Rush. It's like Toto. It's like Bon Jovi. It's like Def Leppard." He was going nuts, and I knew when I wrote that song, I'm like, all right, we're on to something here. It's time for a new Tokyo Motor Fist record. And that was the, again, like I said, that was the beginning of it. And just so proud of the way it came out. And it's unique, man. It's unlike any other, you know, let's say melodic rock band that's out there. There's not a song like that, because as we know, whether it's on Frontiers Records or any of these other labels, there's a lot of generic crap out there. And this certainly isn't generic.
How about the story behind Mean It?
Mean It? Oh, man, that would be the most, I would say, the most expected song from Tokyo Motor Fist, because I think that's the one that told for the Danger Trixter fans. I think that's the one that has everything that you'd want. And it's just a song about, you know, love me like you mean it, man. I mean, it really, whether it's, you know, whatever you're into relationship-wise, you know, we are in 2020. I don't want to insult anybody. That's what that song is about. You know, hey, man, if you're gonna make love, love me like you mean it. And it's just a great, fun rock and roll song. You know,
yep.
No deep meaning in there, if you will.
Okay. The story behind Around Midnight.
Around Midnight, one of my favorites. Just a super fun, upbeat rocker. Actually, the song was kind of a leftover from one of my other bands, 40 Foot Ringo, a great power pop, atomic pop band that I had in the early 2000s with PJ from Trixter and a couple other guys. And I redid it for TMS and everybody loved it, and it's just a great fun song about escapism and in these crazy times that we're living in. I think a song like Around Midnight is much needed. It's about, escaping a bad situation that you're in, and I think that's something we can all relate to in this time of being, quarantined and stuck in your house and pandemic. So it's a song about that. It's, originally it was written about the youthful rebellion. I'm going to leave my parents because they keep me down, and I'm going to escape, and we're going to run away to a new place. But I think the song has a new meaning now. I think it does for me. And I think, that's kind of, the video kind of touched upon that, to where you have this kind of where you're held down, and in life I think you got to sometimes take chances, and you got to break away from things that might be inhibiting your dreams and your passion. And for me, I love to travel, so for me I love escapism, and I love going to different exotic places. So for me, that's kind of the meaning of it.
Where did the name Tokyo Motor Fist come from?
Well, I come from a long line of naming bands, going back to Trixter, my first name, a band name that I own the trademark of. And then after that, it was Throwing Rocks, Soaked, 40-Foot Ringo, Stereo, Fallout, and then Tokyo Motor Fist. So I'm a big believer in powerful names. Gene Simmons taught me that. He still maintains that Van Halen should have changed their name to Daddy Longlegs, because Gene said that was a better name than Van Halen. So, renamed Daddy Longlegs Tokyo Motor Fist. I got to give it up to Gene Simmons for the inspiration on that. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. And I love Gene to death. He's my long lost Uncle Gene. But no, it just goes back to, look, rock and roll band names should be memorable, and Tokyo Motor Fist, something is memorable, and you don't really know what it is. People go to me, Steve, what does it mean? What is it? Some crazy sick thing? Is it some? And I go, no, man. I just took three things that I like. First off, Tokyo. Japan is one of my favorite places on earth to be. I love Japanese food. I love the Japanese culture, Japanese people. I love Japan in general. Love it. So Tokyo was cool. It goes good with rock and roll. Motor, I got that. I got to give it up to my old buddy Lemmy from Motorhead. What's the coolest name in rock and roll ever? Motorhead. Coolest rock and roll band name ever. So if you're going to steal from somebody, you might as well take it from Motorhead. So Tokyo Motor. And what says rock and roll more than a fist? The powerful fist. So when I came up with those three names, and the test always, brother George, you know this, is you bounce it off other people. And when I bounced it off the guys, to Ted, Chuck, and Greg, and the people at Frontiers, nobody laughed. They were like, I don't know what that is, but it's kind of cool. And I was like, all right, this is what we're going with. And it's worked, and we came up with a killer logo for it. And here we are, 2 records in, on a band that has a kooky name. What can I say?
I thought that was the only 3 names available for a band at this point. That was like the only combination left.
Dude, I have a notebook, man. I have a notebook, and on my computer, anytime I hear something, my kids and my wife will tell you this, I live my life where I hear things and I say things, I go, oh man, that's a cool song title, or oh, that's a cool band name.
Yeah.
Things like that. It's always, I look at things when I'm like out taking a walk, and I go, oh man, that'd be a cool album cover, and I take a picture of it. And what's funny is that I have a record coming out next year for my band not Tokyo Motor Fist, Throwing Rocks, which was my first band, PJ and I, after Trixter in 1995. And we're finally releasing all of that material next year. Mm-hmm. And the album cover is a picture that I took when I was out on a walk. And I just fell in love with it. And so that's the way I look at the world. It's kind of funny, but it works.
So 2020 is the 30th anniversary of Trixter's self-titled album. What do you remember about recording it?
Oh, man, I mean, so many things. Look, it was one of the greatest times in my life, and celebrating 30 years of it. I mean, again, it's the record that changed my life and all of our lives. PJ, Pete, the chubby drummer, changed his life. So here we are, doing this interview, I'm talking to you because of that record and a 30-year career of every dream I ever had coming true 100 times over. And every day, another dream comes true for me because the kids keep still coming, and it's just incredible. Look, all I can say is, looking back on it, I'm so thankful that first and foremost we were given that opportunity in the late 80s when we got signed, that we were able to make a record the old school way, where we had a big budget. I think our budget for the record initially was $150,000, and we were able to go out to California and record at the legendary Sound City recording studio, where they have the documentary about that. If you haven't seen it, check it out. We recorded half the record there. We recorded at the Village in LA. We came back to New York and recorded at Battery Studios. I say this because I've had a studio in my house for 26 years now, making records in my house, and as great as that is, and the amount of money that I've saved being able to do that, there's nothing like being able to make records in these old school, recording on analog tape, being all together, living together. It was one of the greatest times in our lives, and of course, the education of learning how to be in a big studio and how to make records, and to Bill Ray and Jim Ray, who produced the record and taught us everything I know about making records. It's just one of those twice in a lifetime, because we got to do it again on the second record. So just so thankful, and it was a hit record, and now we're looking at, the first two Trixter records are close, over 3 million sales all around the world. It's just unbelievable, Fourth, as Gene Simmons always liked to say about Kiss, 4 knuckleheads from New York, that was Kiss. For us, 4 knuckleheads from New Jersey got to, live the rock and roll dream, and we're still living it, some of us.
Absolutely. Did you or the label plan anything for the 30th anniversary, like a re-release or anything like that?
I'm certain. I'm in the thick of it right now, trying to get the licenses from Universal Music, because they own the master tapes and they own the rights to it. But sadly, when I started doing this, no one was counting on a pandemic to basically put everything on hold. So to get an email back from anybody at Universal Business Affairs has been like pulling teeth. So we are still actively trying to have my legal team on it. Eventually, hopefully, by the end of the year, we can have all the paperwork done. And my goal is to get the master tapes back, to preserve everything, have everything digitized, and be able to do a new remastered, remixed version. We have alternate versions of the songs, and really do a cool package for the fans, because I think, we have a great fan base all around the world, and I think, everybody will really love what I put together with this.
Awesome. The last big tour for Trixter was the Blood, Sweat, and Beers tour, and it's actually been getting a lot of talk on the internet lately, I've noticed. You guys toured with Warrant and Firehouse. What memories of that tour really stand out for you?
Again, it was just a magical time, we were on top of the world at that point. We were coming off a hugely successful tour with the Scorpions, to where we were both at the top of our game. The Scorpions had been touring already for 30 plus years, and here they are into their career with Crazy World and have another hit record. We were number one on MTV, our record's blowing up. Multiple nights all around the country, sold out arenas in North America. It was the best. And then we got offered this Warrant tour, Warrant and Firehouse, and it was kind of, what's strange about it, which I don't know if I've talked about much, it was very hard for myself to commit to the tour, because we were also offered the David Lee Roth tour, which it was David Lee Roth and Cinderella, and it would have been David Lee Roth, Cinderella, and Trixter. But we passed on it because Warrant was giving us a better slot. We were going to be the middle slot instead of the first, and we were offered more money. And there was just something about it. We knew that Dave's record wasn't, it was that Little Ain't Enough record, I think it was, the one that Bob Rock produced, and It didn't really take off. And Warrant, of course, had a huge record with Cherry Pie. We were doing great, and Firehouse was going up. And the band and our management, our booking agent, we all kind of looked at each other and said, you know what? This tour feels better for us. Bands are closer in age. we got out on that tour, and the three bands quickly became fast friends. And before you know it, we had a hugely successful tour that was, one of the top 10 grossing tours of that year in 1991. And it was the party of a lifetime. All I can say is, man, the Warrant guys taught us how to party, how to drink. And it was like, I like to say it was like a traveling tailgate party, because as soon as the buses would get to the arenas, we would jump on each other's buses in the dressing rooms. We were drinking during the day, and it was just out of control in so many respects, but it was a friendship and brotherhood that remains to this day. And I just remember, some of the gigs, man, playing, Milwaukee Summerfest in front of 35,000 people, and a couple days later playing in Chicago to 45,000 people. I mean, we have footage of some of this stuff, man, and you'd think that like Metallica or Van Halen were playing these gigs because there were that many people, and it was just mind-blowing. And some of the greatest memories, again, dreams coming true every day for a band, for a little old band from Paramus, New Jersey.
During that time, the scene was pretty much known for its excess and debauchery. What's like the craziest rock star thing that you did back then?
Well, I mean, I can't, look, man, it was no secret about the partying that we were doing, but again, we weren't degenerate partiers and that, and even the Warrant guys, and God bless Jamie Lane, even at his worst, the guy still was able to get up every day and kick ass. I mean, that's one thing I can say about Lane. He was one of these front men who would stay up all night partying, but the next day he would get up and do whatever interviews he had to do, and when he would get on stage, that guy just killed it every night. He was unbelievable, smoking and drinking. His voice was in top form, his frontmanship. He would be halfway through a bottle of Cuervo on stage, and he wouldn't slur, he wouldn't miss a line. It was like, man, me and Pete, I remember we would stand on the side of the stage and watch him, and we would just shake our heads going, we know what we were doing last night, and we're kind of still shaking. We have like the alcohol shakes, and this guy's up there just killing it every night. But he was a pro, but sadly that got that got the best of him later on in life. But it was just all that stuff. I mean, for me personally, I can't, what can I say? I mean, maybe buying a Harley Davidson, I mean, that was it.
Sure.
I was a little too responsible, man. While everybody was out doing a lot of crazy things, I had my portable recording studio, either in my hotel room or in the dressing room, and I'd be like recording tracks, recording demos for the next record, writing songs, and then, in the bathroom, somebody might be taking a shower with a couple girls or something. I'm not going to mention any names, but like that going on. It was just like, it'd just be like crazy stuff going on, but around you, and I'd be like, I don't give a shit, I'm working, man, I gotta write songs for the next record, and that's what I did.
That's a crazy story right there. You recording your stuff while someone in the background is taking a shower with two girls. That sounds pretty rock star to me, whether you're the guy in the shower or you're the guy recording the music.
You know what, George, man? Stuff like that, it just becomes second nature. You see things, and, on a bigger level, you've seen the stuff and heard the stuff that Motley Crue or Aerosmith, everything at some point becomes normal to you, if you can believe that. And that certainly happened to us.
Are there any plans for anything new from Trixter?
I'm working on, during this pandemic, I've been cataloging and digitizing all the old analog stuff. So I've been doing, since 1986, even earlier, I've been digitizing videotapes, analog masters of our old demos. So in the next 10 years you're going to see a bunch of different things. Hopefully we're going to get the 30th anniversary of the debut album taken care of. I'm already working on a 30th anniversary thing for the Here album, which is going to be really cool, because Here is our crowning achievement, I think, with Trixter. That was when, like a lot of bands, your first record, you kind of, it's a little rough around the edges, and then by the second record, you really zero in on what you do best, and I think we went leaps and bounds upon our abilities on the second Trixter record. And sadly, it came out at the worst possible time, fall of 1992, when grunge was the biggest thing in the world. So that record never got its due, but we're doing, a remastering, and I have tons of bonus material. PJ and I are working on it. We're going to do a DVD that comes along with it, with the recording of it. We recorded that record with Jimbo Barton, who was famous for Queensryche and Rush. So a lot of cool stuff there, and and that's it. And I'm working on a new really cool thing. I have unreleased Ray Gillen recordings. If you remember, Ray Gillen was the singer for Badlands and Black Sabbath. So I have one of my best friends who produced the original Trixter first recordings, John Chrissy. He wrote some songs for Ray, and they were the songs that got Ray his audition with Black Sabbath. So we're re-recording the songs that Ray did for that. We have 3 songs that we're going to release the original versions as they were, and then I'm going to re-record and rearrange the songs with an all-star cast of musicians, famous guys that were part of the Black Sabbath lineage and Blue Murder. Ray was, the singer for Blue Murder for a little bit, so hopefully get Tony Franklin and Carmine to play on it. But it's all in the beginning stages right now. So a lot of stuff, for all the bad that in this pandemic, for me, studio-wise, there's been a lot of great, unearthing of unreleased recordings.
Yeah, I think people will be excited about all of that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you obviously have a lot of projects going on behind the scenes, and, on a regular non-pandemic day, you're an in-demand live guitarist. You're playing for Dennis DeYoung. You're playing for Def Leppard. You were doing a thing with Mr. Big for a little while, or Eric Martin, rather. Mm-hmm. Do you prefer being that guy in that joins in, or do you like your own projects? I mean, it's kind of double-edged sword, I guess.
It is, George. Look, again, I'm blessed to have this career, 30 years and counting. This is all I've ever done. So playing music for a living, and I have a great life, man. A great family, great house, everything's good. Health, happiness. I guess I'm somewhat pretty still at 50 years old, so that works. But in a perfect world, yeah, I'm a band guy, so I would love it if Trixter was able to still exist and be able to play and be able to make everybody money. That's just not the case. We never got to that level of success. Would I love to have a permanent role in Def Leppard? Of course. Would I love to have a permanent role in Mr. Big or Eric Martin? Of course. But it just doesn't work out that way. So you take what you're given and make the best of it. And lately, that's been my calling card, and there are a number of bands, bigger bands, that have called me, not bigger than Def Leppard, but big bands that I get calls for where, hey man, you can't tell anybody, but we might need you. So there are a lot of, it's really interesting when I do get these phone calls and I go, shit, I don't know a lot of their songs, and I have to go and quickly learn 14 songs and vocals, and then I go, wow, that was really cool. So the experience of being able to and having to learn, let's say, the Styx catalog was really cool for me because I didn't grow up a big Styx fan. So to learn that material, I became a huge Dennis DeYoung and Styx fan and really saw, and I told Dennis this and I tell him this all the time, now I get it, and now I get why you guys sold 50 million albums. Styx is that good. Whether you're a fan or not, you gotta give it up. And the musicality, and I've said this numerous times about Def Leppard too, people listen to Def Leppard, and especially, let's say, musical snobs, and go, oh, that's 80s hard rock, it's easy stuff. I'm going to tell you, as a guitar player who can play every Van Halen song, Def Leppard stuff is equally as hard. Their stuff is not as cookie cutter as you think. So it's a great opportunity as a musician, and I still love to grow as a musician. So getting these opportunities, whether it's learning Danger, Eric Martin, Mr. Big stuff, Styx, Def Leppard, and all those other bands that I can't mention, it's a really cool thing. So I'll take the work whenever it comes.
Excellent. That's all I got for you today, Steve. I appreciate you talking to Metal Express Radio today.
You got it, my brother George. Thanks so much. Give everybody up in the Massachusetts area our love, and hope to see you soon.
Yes, I hope to see concerts soon.
You bet, bro. All right. God bless. Take it easy.
Hey, take care.